know, we've got a government that just don't care about us.
There's people coming in, getting every...
The events at these marches are simply impossible to describe in words. The police were completely shocked by how many people took to the streets. It was something grandiose. Starmer and the Labour Party were in a panic. They were seized with fear that they would not be able to control the situation. And given the shortage of police officers, as always, they faced enormous difficulties. We start watching the first scene.
Parliament. Our reporter Shivani Sharma is on the scene. Shivani, what is going on?
Well, Ali, they've now arrived at Parliament Square. Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, Tommy Robinson, as he's better known, might not be physically present here today at the protest, but that hasn't deterred thousands of his supporters from turning up to this protest organised in his name. Slow marching to Parliament, where speakers and performers are starting to take to the stage. Protesters draped in St George's flags and Union Jack flags with a real mix of signs I can see. Placards of "Bring Back Rwanda, Make Britain Great Again, Lest We Forget" written across them. Lots of chants too of "Stop the Boats" and chants calling for Robinson to be free.
People waving British flags chanted insults at Starmer and called for the release of their Tommy Robinson. When the Prime Minister's face appeared on the screen during Robinson's recorded video message, shouts of "traitor," whistling and obscenities resounded through Whitehall. Supporters of Tommy Robinson marched from Victoria Station to the south side of Whitehall. 2 people were arrested, one for racially motivated public order violations and the other for violating the terms of the Public Order Act. Thousands of people came out from under Victoria Station, chanting "We want Starmer to leave." Demonstrators also waved flags over their heads. And there were also several "Make America Great Again" flags in the crowd in support of Donald Trump. Others carried posters with Robinson's image, pleading for his release and calling him a political prisoner, one even dressed up as Robinson. Demonstrators also held signs saying "Take Back Rwanda" and "Stop the Boats." And some demonstrators wore badges reading "I am Peter Lynch" in memory of a 61-year-old man who died in prison after being jailed for shouting insults at police outside the hotel where asylum seekers lived. Others carried flags with the words "Rest in Peace, Peter Lynch." A political prisoner, a video recording of Robinson complaining about the 2-tier police system was shown to people gathered on the streets.
People marching over their grievances with the Prime Minister and how the riots were held and handled over the summer. The fact that lots of people are still imprisoned because of them. But Robinson has told protesters here to be peaceful, a message which has been reiterated by one of the organisers, Liam Tufts, who's also here today.
And I'm just going to keep encouraging people to stay calm, don't react to the provocation, because that will be taking place. There's going to be people purposely placed in disguise to get a reaction, and the name of the game is to be the bigger person.
Starmer is to blame for the record number of migrants crossing the border. This is one of the problems that the Robinson clan protested against. Our Prime Minister is against us at the moment. How can he give millions to Africa but have no money for the British? A counter-protester said that Robinson is an idiot who incites hatred and distracts from real problems. A large number of police vans and officers were dispersed around the perimeter of the protests, but due to their peaceful nature, intervention was minimal. Robinson is accused of contempt of court after showing the film at a protest in central London in July. On Friday, he appeared at the police station, where he was charged separately with failing to provide police with the PIN code of his phone.
Now, we have no evidence that there is anyone stationed in disguise to provoke violence, but the Met Police is preparing for all possible eventualities, especially with a counter-protest taking place just a few metres away. There's a clear visible presence of the police today. They're working with the British Transport Police and other forces outside of London. I'm looking at some roads that have been cordoned off by the police. Lots of visibility amongst officers as well. They've said their aim is to keep the different protests apart, conscious, of course, of wanting to avoid the kinds of outbreaks of violence that we saw during those summer riots.
Tommy Robinson called for this protest primarily against Starmer's tyranny. Several thousand supporters gathered for this demonstration called Unite the Kingdom. Tommy Robinson was scheduled to be arrested until the morning of 28th of October. Among those gathered at the rally were veterans of the armed forces and football hooligans who are fed up with Starmer's migration policy. The order at the rallies was monitored by more than 1,000 police officers specializing in suppressing riots at mass protests. Latvian activist Liana Langa has already spoken out in defense of Robinson, saying, unfortunately, the organizer of the demonstration has been arrested. This is what left liberalism in the UK leads to one of the greatest patriots is being arrested in the country. It leads to socio-political disappointment at the state level. Well, the police just do what the authorities tell them to do.
Gents, can you stay back? Just stay back a couple of metres, please.
In parallel, a counter-demonstration was held in London called Stand Up to Racism. In addition, an action was held by the United Friends and Families movement, representing the interests of the families of victims of police violence and those who died after being detained. Earlier, Tommy Robinson was sentenced to 13 months in prison for contempt of court. Initially, the court imposed a ban on the coverage of his case, and his arrest was not mentioned in the media. Later, after complaints from the media and on social networks, the ban was lifted. Among those who supported him was Trump's son. On Robinson's broadcast, it was seen how the participants in the process entered the hall, and he made comments during the broadcast. The broadcast lasted about an hour and was seen by about 250,000 people. However, given that the activist called for the video to be distributed as widely as possible on the internet, the court nevertheless found him guilty of disrespect. Robinson's real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. His organization calls its goal the fight against the Islamization of Britain. The movement holds demonstrations and street actions, speaking out, in particular, against the opening of new mosques.
It's important for me, I think, because of our culture and the way things are going at the moment. You know, we've got a government that just don't care about us.
There's people coming in, get everything for free. They've taken away our pension and heating. And it's just not fair. Honestly, got no problem with immigrants, but illegal immigrants are.
Uncontrolled migration endangers national security. Those who insult citizens who are worried about the problem of migration are really stupid. Migrants can no longer be allowed to come to the UK with impunity and live parallel lives instead of integrating. I am not against migration as such, but uncontrolled migration without assimilation is absurd.
You know, if you come out for a march or whatever, they call you far right, you know, and it's all wrong. I mean, we're not far right, we're just normal British people.
More and more it seems that people with these obnoxious far-right views are feeling free to speak up, to take it out on people, and this is our chance to say we disagree with that.
I try and make them understand that the problems they're seeing in our society, the problems they are tying to people of colour and to people who are coming here from elsewhere, they're not caused by them, they're caused by a concentration of wealth at the top.
Freedom of speech is dying. Now you can go to jail for anything that Starmer doesn't like. There can be no freedom without freedom of speech. There can be no democracy. And freedom of speech is the hallmark of a good and civilized society. We should be allowed to disagree. We should be allowed to criticize the authorities. We should be allowed to criticize ideologies, religions, and so on. I would say that England has been destroyed by migration. I think it's obvious, and we should be able to talk about it. Do you agree with this? What do you think about this video? I'm interested to know your thoughts. You can write your opinion in the comments. See you in the next video.